decide to get serious, there's only one place to come. The games of Super Nintendo. No one else creates this kind of experience, because no one else creates these kinds of games.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the definitive console of the early 90s and seeing if there's still anything we haven't learned about these little plastic bundles of joy. These are 20 things you didn't know about the SNES. Let's go. Don't rest a drink on me.
Generation of Nintendo games. It comes only with Super Nintendo, and it's like nothing.
The American version of the NES had a distinct design, which is polite code for so boxy it could double as a footstool, because Nintendo of America decided to style it like a VCR to avoid scaring retailers still traumatized by the great video game crash. The plan worked, but the design also came with one glaring flaw: a perfectly flat top that begged people to put drinks on it, inevitably leading to countless consoles drowning in grape Fanta. So did you know that when Nintendo designed the SNES, they made sure the new system was basically anti-beverage? A top-loading cartridge slot, a raised and curved surface, and an overall shape that whispers, "Please don't use me as a coaster." It sounds like an old wives' tale, but turns out it's true.
You find it's just begun. The new Legend of Zelda, a link to the past. Now you're playing with power and superpower.
In trouble with Congress.
You're looking at the next breakthrough for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
In the early 90s, Nintendo smugly assumed they were safe from violent concerns thanks to turning Mortal Kombat's blood into what looked like red Gatorade flavored sweat. But they underestimated two things: Sega's ability to be petty and Congress's ability to get offended by absolutely anything. Because during a hearing, Sega VP Bill White decided to drag Nintendo into the fire by whipping out the Super Scope, a bazooka-shaped plastic peripheral so gloriously over the top that Lieberman immediately declared it looked like an assault weapon. This was because Sega was in trouble and was trying to draw focus elsewhere. Dogs.
Remote-powered and laser-accurate. Precise to a single television pixel.
They do turn yellow. As it turns out, Nintendo accidentally overloaded early units of the SNES with flame-retardant chemicals containing bromine, a metal that loves oxidizing so much it basically speedrun discoloration. And while later versions fixed the issue, anyone who bought one near launch now owns a console that's exact shade is sort of nicotine chic. But on the bright side, if your house ever bursts into flames, your Super Nintendo will bravely refuse to ignite while you heroically continue playing Super Metroid in a haze of smoke and poor life choices. Nintendo avoid the Yakuza. There isn't much I'm eager to say about the Yakuza. They're scary, which is why Nintendo once worried the local syndicates might try and swipe an incoming shipment of highly coveted Super Nintendo units. This fear led to the creation of the magnificently dramatic Operation Midnight Shipping, a title that sounds less like a logistics plan and more like something you'd whisper to yourself at 3 a.m. after panic ordering 50 tea towels on Amazon. But despite the cool name, the operation's big strategy was simply deliver everything ridiculously early in the morning, getting consoles and copies of Super Mario World to stores before any hypothetical gangsters wake up. SNES had online features. The SNES's big attempt to join the online world came in the form of X-Band. Think of it as the proto-Nintendo Switch Online, except held together with hope and phone lines. Designed for both SNES and Sega Genesis users, the X-Band let players battle friends online, download newsletters, and even check email, which in the 90s basically made it a wizard box. And though it peaked around 15,000 subscribers and even teamed up with the Sega channel for a bit, it ultimately shut down in early 1997. Only came out as revenge.
Your column's free. What Nintendo?
As popular as the SNES turned out to be, Nintendo wasn't exactly dying to replace the NES at first. I mean, if your device reignited an entire industry, you'd have a good amount of confidence in it as well. They figured the little grey box would keep selling forever as a permanent family room resident. But Sega backed Nintendo into a corner with an aggressive marketing campaign that basically pointed at Nintendo and yelled, "Hey, old man!" So Nintendo eventually realized they had to clap back, announcing the Super Famicom in 1987.
It's free. What Nintendo?
Earthbound's anti-piracy prank. Most games with anti-piracy measures just stop you dead the moment they detect funny business, but Earthbound went full chaotic evil. If the console detected a pirated copy of the game, it massively ramped up enemy encounters, and if you somehow muscled through that gauntlet and made it all the way to the final showdown with Gygas, the real trap sprung. The game would suddenly crash, forcing a reset, at which point you discover that every single one of your save files were vaporized, leaving you with nothing but existential dread and a very strong respect for Nintendo's commitment to teaching pirates life lessons. SNES bundles.
Mario is a Mario smorgasbord. It's all the way down Mario Brothers Adventures you ever played and then some. But this is 2-star 16-bit only on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Mario, so it's bigger Mario.
There has not been a console since that packaged so many games with the console to make different types of bundles. Obviously, the big one was the Super Mario World bundle, as you've probably seen it 10,000 times on eBay. Early bundles included F-Zero, and later, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past got its own set once it dropped a year after launch. There were also bundles revolving around Super Mario All-Stars, Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario Kart, Street Fighter 2, Yoshi's Island, Star Fox, Killer Instinct, Mario Paint, Kirby Superstar, Tetris Attack, Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball, and Super Metroid. I could keep going, but I'm stopping there for your sake.
With two-player split-screen action, you've never been in a race like this. Super Mario Kart, only for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. No wonder the best play here.
A lot of N64 games started as SNES games. Nintendo managed to keep the Super Nintendo alive and kicking far longer than anyone expected by stuffing special performance-enhancing chips right into the cartridges themselves, letting the system pull off jaw-dropping feats like Star Fox's Polygonal Madness and Yoshi's Island's wild visual wizardry. And this trick worked so well that Nintendo briefly considered putting more ambitious 3D projects onto the SNES. Super Mario 64 originally started life as a SNES concept. Star Fox 64 borrowed ideas from the unreleased Star Fox 2, and Rare had an early SNES-based 3D project called Project Dream, which eventually transformed into Banjo-Kazooie. Backwards compatibility almost happened.
Describe the endless challenge of Super Mario World, so we let the players do the talking.
Did you know that the SNES was originally supposed to play the entire NES library straight out of the box? It's true, it would have been a feature that would have made revisiting the classics a breeze, but Nintendo, true to form, never fully committed to backwards compatibility outside of the Wii era, partly because their hardware kept bouncing between cartridges, tiny discs, big discs, and then cartridges again, like a company playing console format roulette. And while the idea likely surfaced as a response to Sega and the PC Engine boasting their own compatibility perks, Nintendo ultimately scrapped the plan once they realized it would jack up the SNES's retail price. The rarest SNES cartridge. Back in the 90s, Nintendo organized a giant SNES competition tour to crown the ultimate champion. And instead of forcing staff to swap game carts non-stop like overworked DJs, they built a special single cartridge containing timed demo-style segments of 3 different games, giving each contestant roughly 6 minutes to rack up the best overall score. Only about 33 of these multi-game cartridges existed during the tour, most of which Nintendo later scrapped for parts, leaving only 2 known surviving copies in the wild today, both so rare they sell for the kind of money that makes collectors consider different hobbies. The Ghost of Shiva. Mortal Kombat 3 originally shipped with 15 playable fighters, and when Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 hit the scene, it slapped on a handful of extra characters, but the SNES didn't exactly have room to store the entire violent circus, so the developers had to start trimming the fat. Several stages vanished, voice clips were axed, animalities got the boot, and even poor four-armed Shiva was cut to make space for all the new goodies, though cut is a generous term because instead of deleting her completely, they only removed her graphics while leaving everything else in the code, which becomes a problem thanks to a secret 8 vs 8 endurance mode that allows players to select random characters, meaning you can accidentally end up choosing Shiva, or whatever abstract art piece is standing in for her that day. Her moves still function, her hitbox still exists, but visually, she shows up as a chaotic soup of pixels.
Flawless victory. Fatality.
SNES doesn't care what you think. Tool-assisted speedruns are usually delightful chaos, letting you watch someone absolutely annihilate games that once destroyed your childhood confidence, sometimes by exploiting glitches so wild they feel illegal. But the greatest tool-assisted speedrun ever created is the legendary Family Feud SNES play-around, because that game has an unbelievably goofy answer checking system where you don't need to type the exact answer, just a string of letters that contain the correct answer's letters in order. Even if you stuff in full nonsense in between, and thanks to that loophole, you can blast out answers much quicker. Sequel to Link to the Past.
6 years ago, the hero Link threw down the King of Evil, Ganon. Since then, the land of Hyrule has basked in a time of peace.
As it turns out, there really is a hidden sequel to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past that most players never knew existed. Set several years after the original SNES classic, it has you once again playing as Link, this time hunting down the titular ancient stone tablets, whilst also learning about the younger brother of a major NPC from the first game. Why didn't we get it? The entire game was delivered through Satellaview broadcasts and could only be played in 1-hour chunks during specific scheduled times, and while a shockingly accurate reconstruction has been pieced together from recovered memory pack data, the true original experience, complete with timed episodes and live audio, can never be fully recreated. Cloud gaming before the cloud. Oh, speaking of, let's break down the Satellaview a bit more. Satellaview was an add-on that let the system receive and decode satellite TV signals, so you could literally tune into games like TV shows. Titles were broadcast at specific times, streamed direct to your console, and once the hour-long window ended, you had to stop playing. Nintendo created a bunch of Satellaview exclusive games, and the Satellaview was actually pretty successful, staying supported by Nintendo and their broadcasting partner from 1995 all the way until 2000, proving Nintendo was experimenting with cloud gaming long before anyone had the bandwidth for it. PlayStation started as an SNES add-on.
Compact, smaller than an existing single, and this is how it fits into the player, like so.
Yes, the mighty PlayStation was originally Nintendo's own half-baked baby, because back in the late 80s, Nintendo and Sony teamed up to make a fancy CD add-on for the SNES, and everything was going great until Nintendo actually read the contract and discovered Sony would get most of the profits from CD-based games, which instantly triggered Nintendo's absolutely not reflex. So in true dramatic fashion, literally hours after publicly announcing their partnership with Sony, Nintendo spun around, plunged a metaphorical knife straight into Sony's metaphorical back, and told the world that they were dumping them for Philips. If you know anything about the Philips CDI, you know this was a pretty big mistake.
And look after that body, it's my favorite model, built for speed and pleasure.
Don't worry about that. I intend to keep up the maintenance on this model.
Super Arcade Nintendo.
And without further ado, this is my little showcase of my Nintendo Super System.
Back in the 80s and 90s, arcades were still thriving like neon-lit ecosystems, full of teenagers, cigarette smoke, and constant sound of coins clinking, even though home consoles were taking over living rooms worldwide. Nintendo just wasn't ready to give up that sweet arcade money, and that meant launching the gloriously obscure Nintendo Super System in 1991. A machine so unpopular that even Bigfoot has better name recognition. With estimates suggesting only about 1,200 units were ever sold, a microscopic number compared to other cabinets, we can say it was a pretty big failure.
All that through the MSU hack, and you'd have to look more into that and how it's done, but...
Mario Kart vs. F-Zero. This is a fun piece of gaming trivia. Without F-Zero, we wouldn't have Mario Kart, because Mario Kart originally began as an attempt to make a multiplayer version of F-Zero's high-speed futuristic chaos. Takeya Imamura, the artist behind Captain Falcon himself, recently said in an interview that the new F-Zero would cost a fortune to make, while Mario Kart continues printing money faster than Nintendo can count it. So, from a business standpoint, F-Zero is basically standing outside the Mushroom Kingdom holding a cardboard sign that says, "We'll race for a budget." The irony of all this, of course, is that Mario Kart only exists because Nintendo wanted to adapt F-Zero. The original SNES mascot. Captain Falcon is a man of many talents: galactic hero, bounty hunter, race car driver, professional martial artist who fights like he's being paid per explosion. But his original job was supposed to be way cushier and maybe involving a red hat. He was meant to be the official mascot of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, complete with a grey color scheme to match the console. Because nothing says buy this system like a mysterious helmeted man who looks like he moonlights as a traffic cone. Eventually, Nintendo realized F-Zero needed a recognizable face more than SNES needed a space cop spokesmodel. So Falcon got recolored, repurposed, and shoved into a hover car at Mach 7.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Disrupted society.
When you decide to step up to this kind of power, this kind of challenge, this kind of flying crash.
In Japan, the Super Famicom launched on a Wednesday, and the results were absolute chaos. The Super Famicom's release was such a cultural earthquake that the Japanese government straight up intervened, realizing that having the entire population lining up on a weekday just to sprint home and play the living soul out of Super Mario World was slightly disruptive to society. So officials politely insisted that all future consoles be released on weekends, a rule that continues today. Bastards. I don't want kids getting in the way of my PS6.
A bit more fresh, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos.